Hello YouTube, and welcome to another moto vlog, couch vlog of course, coming at you from my couch in beautiful Sterling, Virginia here. And today we're going to be talking about going on long, technical, twisty rides, specifically on rides that you've never gone on before, on new roads, finding new roads. So how do you find new roads? How do you go on these rides? And how do you do it safely and have a lot of fun while doing it? So the first thing you need to do is, of course, coordinate with your friends. You really don't want to go on a ride like this by yourself. You're going to be out there hundreds of miles from your house, and if something were to happen to you or your bike, you've got no one to help you. You don't know these roads, you don't know these areas, you might not see another car for 30 or 40 minutes, and if you're sitting there bleeding to death, God forbid, you want someone there to help you, to go find help, to call EMS, to do something, to get the bike off of you, to stop the bleeding, So always have at least one buddy to ride with you. The second thing, on the other hand, is always vet the people you're riding with. Don't go and bring like 30 people on a ride like this when you don't know the routes and you're going blind. Because if one of these people were to fall, it's going to screw everything up. You're hundreds of miles from home. It's going to ruin the whole day, and it stinks. So at the very least, trust the people you're riding by watching their YouTube videos, riding with them around the town, just trusting them. Always have that trust. So what kind of size of a group ride would you want to have? So like I said, I'd say 2 to 6 people is like the best size. That way you can make it through lights together, you can go through stop signs mostly together, you're not going to have too many cars getting in between you, you're not going to have to do crazy group ride stuff, you're just going to be able to sit there and enjoy your ride. So always try to limit, the number of people you're going to have with you. So now personally, here are some of the things you're going to want to do. If you're the leader of this ride, you're going to need to plan the route out in some way, shape, or form. You're going to want to know turn by turn how to go through this whole route, because you're going to be hundreds of miles from home, like I've said a bunch, and just winging it is going to end up not being as fun of a time as, say, just following turn by turn directions. There's many apps that you can use on the phone that will facilitate this kind of thing. If you have a phone mount on your bike, plan the route out, plug your phone into either an external battery bank or into your motorcycle itself, or like I do, you can use a dedicated GPS unit and plan the route out that way. Of course, make sure it's got battery power for the ride. It's going to be a long ride. And yeah, really have that set up. And besides just having the route on your bike, have some kind of idea of where you're going, what you're doing, so that if you are to get lost or you are to lose GPS or something were to happen to your phone or whatever, you have a vague idea of how to get back to the main roads and get yourself back home safely. Because you do have limited gasoline on a motorcycle and you don't want to run out of gas trying to find your way back home. That's going to be a real pain. So once you get out there and it's time to ride, what do you want to do? So the first thing is, make sure you leave on time, right? This is a long ride, hundreds of miles. If you don't leave on time, you're not going to get back on time. That might mean riding after dark, or it might be riding through storms that are coming later in the day, or just something. And you're either going to have to cut your ride short, which is no fun, or you're going to have to ride in a dangerous time frame, you know what I mean? You just don't want any of that. So once you've left, what kind of things can you do to prepare? Well, one of them is have water. Make sure you've got at least a little bit of water on you. If that means wearing a backpack, so be it. But hopefully, if you're going on a ride like this, you've got a bike that can maybe hold something, whether it be with a tank bag or a tail bag or side cases or something. Hold some water. The more water you can hold, the better, but even having 1 liter of water is best, because you're not necessarily going to stop all the time at gas stations that have water. So the next thing to have is, if you have one credit card, make sure you bring cash, because your credit card might fail and you might not be able to get gas, and you might not be able to rely on your friends to get gas. What if their forms of payment fail? So you always bring some way to pay and always have a backup. So bring a little cash, bring some credit cards, have ways to get yourself some gas and water and food and everything you're going to need. So now you've met up, you're prepared. Oh, the final thing is make sure your bike's prepared, right? Don't be like 100 miles from an oil change. Make sure your chain's been cleaned and lubed if you have a chain. Make sure your tires are properly inflated, because if your tires aren't properly inflated and the pressures are too low, you're going to end up damaging your tires on this long ride. You're not going to need all that grip from having low tire pressures. Have your tires inflated to the proper standards. That way, you have that longevity. You're not just blowing money for no reason. So anyways, you got your bike ready, you've got your route ready, you've got your friends ready, and it's time to head out. What do you do when you get on the ride? Well, the first thing is, don't ride too far at a time without stopping. I would say try to take a break at least once every hour and a half, 90 minutes. So, if not more. The more breaks, the better. And if you're taking a lot of breaks, they can be short breaks. But at least try to stop and take a 5-10 minute break every hour and a half. That way people stay fresh, they stay hydrated, they don't get too bored. You can talk with people if they're not on comms, that kind of thing. I guess I should mention communications. Having communications is best, but if you can't have communications, that's not really a big deal. It's more fun that way, but not having comms is not a big deal. So, take it or leave it. So, but again, stopping a lot, you can communicate if you don't have comms. So that's a really good thing. The next thing is everyone needs to know and be prepped ahead of time before the ride starts about what the expectations are. And the expectation should be, if you're the lead rider in this group, you're going to go first because you're the one who knows the route. Now, that's not necessarily a good thing because you're not necessarily the most experienced rider in the group. And if you're not the most experienced rider in the group, you tend to not want to ride. If you are the most experienced rider in the group, you tend not to want to ride first. But in this case, you kind of have to because you're the one leading the route. So you want to tell everyone on the ride to ride their own ride. And basically say this way, we're going to try to keep cars from getting in between us, but every time we make a turn, we're going to wait and make sure everyone's caught up. This is one of the reasons why you only want a handful of people on your ride, like 6 or less people. That way the group doesn't get too spread out and other things like that. Also, if you're the guy in first, don't go crazy. Just don't. You keep your eyes on your mirrors and keep a lookout for the guys behind. If people are, falling back and they're not able to keep up with you, slow down and let them catch up. This isn't like when you're going on a ride like this, you're not going on a ride to attack the twisties. You're going on a ride to see the sights, to explore new roads, and to just chill. So do that, chill, and let the people stay close to you. Now, if you're the one following and you're not in front, a couple pieces of advice. Number one is do not follow too closely. Try to maintain at least a 3 to 4 second gap minimum. Because if anyone ahead of you stops, you might not realize it right away. Because they might stop for what you perceive as no reason. Like say a deer crossing the road, or a stopped car, or a log is falling on the road, or just something has caused the rider ahead of you to have to stop. Maybe a problem with their motorcycle. And if they do stop, you want all the time in the world to stop. And if you're like the 5th rider in a group, like you're in the back and you're the 5th or 6th rider, you want to, again, maintain that gap to the 4th rider and the 3rd rider. You want to have this nice spread out group. And this is more and more important as the roads become more technical and as the speeds come higher. The higher the speeds and the more technical the roads, the more important it is to maintain a solid gap to the rider in front of you so that no one hits each other. This is especially important when you have less people. Like if it's just 2 of you or 3 of you and all 3 riders crash into each other, well, what the heck was the point of having a buddy? Now you're all screwed and none of you can get help for anybody. So always keep that, gap. So the other thing is, well, that's really it. There is no other thing. Maintain that gap. Don't let guys get too far behind. Be a nice rider, Be nice to the guy in front of you. Be nice to the guy behind you. You're all responsible for each other, and you're all just trying to see the sights and have a good time. So as always, when you're out there on your motorcycle, have fun, number one, and number two, most importantly, think about your riding.